17 through 20. But now I said to them, you know very well what trouble we are in. Jerusalem lies in ruins, and its gates have been destroyed by fire. Let us rebuild the wall of Jerusalem and end this disgrace. Then I told them about how the gracious hand of God had been on me, and about how my conversation went with the king. They replied at once, yes, let's rebuild the wall. So they began the good work. But then when Sanballat, Tobiah, and Geshem the Arab heard about our plan, they scoffed contemptuously. What are you doing? Are you rebelling against the king? They asked. I replied, the God of heaven will help us succeed. We, his servants, will start rebuilding this wall. But you have no share, legal right, or historic claim in Jerusalem. Nehemiah drew a line in the sand. He gathered the people around and he inspired them through the words that he had spoken. And he was just a God. He was just a God. He wasn't the best, but he cared the most. And he inspired people. Why? Because they could feel his passion. You ever been around those people that they speak so solidly about what they're talking about that you just buy in because they have fire in their eyes? John Wesley Rhodes said, light yourself on fire with passion and people will come from miles to watch you burn. Let me say it again. Light yourself on fire with passion and people will come from miles to watch you burn. He's saying, hey, it ain't going to be easy. We're going to do something that's going to honor God and his kingdom. This is bigger than we are. He's saying that we may have to work with a tool in one hand and a sword in the other because we're going to face opposition. But we are going to fight against our opposition, and we are going to fight for our wives and for our children and for our grandchildren and for our God and his kingdom. We're not going to be passive men. We're going to be courageous men who are going to step out in faith and do what God has asked us to do. And then all of those people around that had seen nothing but hopelessness for 140 years are now seeing that all things are possible through God. He was a cup bearer, and he can do the same thing for us. So who are we? Who are we? We are ditch digging, plow burning, storytelling, ridiculous, faith-filled risk takers. And we will not live small and live at all. We will never insult God with small thinking or safe living. Now, we're ditch digging. That means we are firm faith people. We're willing to go do what God asks us to do. We're plow burning. We're not going to look at a plan B anymore. We're going to know what God has called us to do, and we're going to march forward. Then we're going to tell our stories, no matter how jacked up our stories are, because those stories, with the vision that God has given us, are going to allow us to touch the people's lives that he's going to bring us in this community. And we are ridiculous, faith-filled risk takers. We're going to say, okay, God, what do you want? He's going to show us, and we're going to say, okay, here we go. What's our vision? Our vision is ridiculous. And I don't mean the Webster side of ridiculous. I mean ridiculous from the Urban Dictionary. That definition means this: something extremely impressive, very good, and unbelievable. We make ridiculous decisions for God to show our ridiculous commitment to God, which builds ridiculous faith in God. We receive ridiculous provisions from God that gives ridiculous restoration by God to his people. And what's our mission? Clearly defined as this: to be the church outside the walls of the church, empowering, equipping, and unleashing God's people to do God's work. And that's it, and that's all. That's who we are. So I say this to you. If you want to live in ruins, do it. If you want to say God can't use me because of this, state it. If you want to live for material possessions or what's in your bank account or how high you can climb the corporate ladder, do that too. It's okay. Then you're going to get to the end of your life and you're going to look back and you're going to play woulda, coulda, shoulda. Because you're going to live back with regrets. And if you're like the majority of the world, you will waste your life on things that don't matter. Because we all know that a hearse pulls back behind it a trailer with all of your crap. And then really what's important is how much money you die with. That's what's important, right? Sure. It's important. I mean, I got to have a certain amount of money in my bank account when I die, right? Says it. How many of us think we can? Because we fight tooth and nail to make sure that that bank account's got a lot of money in it, but yet when we sit in church and I say, you can, you go, oh, no, we're not supposed to live like that, but we do. So I'm saying if we choose to live that way, that's fine. But if you surrender your heart to what God is asking you very specifically and very individually to surrender your heart to, He's going to call you out to call you home. And you're not going to have to worry about what kind of money's in your bank. You're not going to have to worry about what kind of house you live in or what kind of car you drive. You're going to look at the end of your life and you're going to look back and you're going to say, my life mattered. My life counted. I left everything I had on the field of battle and I got nothing left to give. And then what God's going to say to you is He's going to say, well done, my good and faithful servant. And I'm going to be honest, those are the only words I want to hear when I enter into Jesus. Because there is nothing in this life that matters to me except selling myself out for His kingdom and watching lives change. And I wish I could do it for you, but the power is you doing it and letting Him do it in you, and then going out and doing it there. So, how can He use us, this body of misfit people? Here's how I think He uses us. He can plop us down in the middle of a whole bunch of land that He's already picked out that we don't know. He can build a whole bunch of tiny little houses that we call restoration homes that give people that don't have hope. He can let us be smart enough and give us the talent enough to build community gardens and community farms to where those people that are in that in-between stage can work and get reacclimated to society and get restored. And He can use us to show them what the real, raw, relevant Jesus Christ looks like through how we are and how we act and not the words that we speak. We can give single moms and single dads hope that there are people that stand beside them and walk behind them. To say, hey, we love you, and more importantly, Jesus Christ loves you. We empower them, and then they begin to teach their children about the power of Jesus Christ. And then it funnels this way. We can take kids that don't have dads, and we can have dads that say, hey, I'm not your father, but I'll be your God. And I'll walk beside you through the hard stuff, and I'll give you a guy to talk to that's maybe not your mom or not your dad. To reach out to there, because there's a whole lost generation there of people that just don't have men to teach them how to be men and women to teach them how to be women. That's what God can do through us. Anybody want to in on that? We can change what Camden County looks like. We can break down the walls of denomination between churches because we want to work beside you and with you, not against you. Because we serve one God, we don't serve a body. Imagine all of God's people coming together to serve all of God's people. Is it a big task, you better believe it. But that's what I see God doing through us. But what it takes is us getting out of ourselves and getting into the Spirit. That's what it takes. It takes us humbly going to God and saying, break my heart for what breaks yours. That one thing we taught a year and a half ago on this thing called one word. And that one word, I think, has stuck with the majority of us ever since then. Well, what's your one thing? Seek it out and let Him break that heart. You know what? Yes, you're going to be vulnerable. Yes, it's going to take effort. Yes, it's going to be bothersome. Yes, you're going to be into the unknown. And you're going to be forced to get involved with people that you don't maybe want to get involved with. But maybe He didn't want to get involved with you back when you were being a knucklehead. Any takers on that one? Yeah. Yeah. That's what He can do through us. So if you have not yet sought Him out to say, what's my peace, what's my place, do it. Don't get caught in the rubble. Because next week we talk about, what do we talk about next week? Opposition. Following week, talk about distractions. And then I'm going to ask you something. I'm just going to give you a heads up. I'm going to ask you something in 2 weeks to do something to where you got no place to run, no place to hide. Okay? So, if you haven't thought about it, pray about it, or start praying about it now. Because again, there's no reason that I can explain to you why He has us all here for this place at this time, but He always does. No matter what it is. Young, old, no matter what. Okay? You guys are pretty lethargic this morning. I'm going to give you a pass. Yeah, sure they are. I don't see any smoke flying. All right. So any thoughts and any questions? Wow, that's it. Spoke with such authority that it moved you that much. I don't know that the teaching is good, but the message is good. The message is good because the word practical, we have got to apply the stuff that we're learning. We have got to apply the stuff that we're learning. Because if not, we're just a club. We're just a group. We're just a bunch of people that come and hang out and hand everybody and smile at everybody on a Sunday morning and all go about our way. And that's not what He called us to do. Everybody is important in the kingdom of God. Everybody has a place in the kingdom of God, no matter what it is. Identify, make it clear, make it easy, take the next step, whatever that step is. Let me ask you this. I'm not going to ask you because you got to be emotional. Oh, by the way, happy anniversary to Wise and Wise. And big kudos because Mandy's like Carrie, and if she's got the wherewithal to put up with guys like me and Tommy, she's got, she got her stamp, she got her ticket marked, stamped to heaven right now. So 18 years, been together, 23. Awesome. So let me ask you this, a practical question before Roland sink us out of here. Let's say I want to move. Say I want to move to New York City. Because I feel like God's calling me to start a church in New York City. What's the first thing that I need to do? Don't worry, Taylor, I'm not moving to New York. What's the first thing that I need to do? Pray. Okay. Okay, so what am I going to do next? If I'm going to move to New York, what am I going to do next?
Make a plan.
Okay, what kind of plans am I going to make? What's the first thing that you would do if you're going to move? Find some place to live. How am I going to do that?
Check it.
Okay. Do I need to worry about a budget? Okay. Do I do that before I go out there and visit, or do I do it after? Okay. So, I go to New York. I'm going to plan to move. I know how much money I want to spend, how much I can afford to spend to live there. I go there and I search. Then what do I do after I search? I already defined my mission. That's why I'm going to New York. What do I do next?
Take followers with you.
Okay. But if it's just me going, don't overthink this. Because this is how we need to think about what God's asking you to do. Put in action. So I found a place. What next?
Go there. Put your stake in the ground.
Put your stake in the ground and move. That's the process of after you, because sometimes we think too complicated about this. You take one step at a time. You take one step at a time. So Tommy, you define, you know your mission. Next thing you need to do, okay, how do I do it? What's that next step? Start maybe praying for the kids. Identifying who those kids are that don't have dads. And that's the next step. And then you take the next step after that, and the next step after that. And then all of a sudden it puts things in place. Don't overcomplicate it. Go back to Nehemiah and read what he did. Anything else? Too complicated this morning?
You've got a real spin. You guys are
Okay,
comfortable.
that's good. Is anybody uncomfortable? They're not. Everybody's fine. Everybody's fine. You and I are. We'll be okay. We'll be okay. I hope, listen to me, before I close out, let me just say this. I hope that it drives you crazy to walk into here every Sunday morning. I do. I hope that you're like, oh no, what's he going to talk about? What's he going to point me out? How's he going to call me out? What's he going to say? He's not going to give me this warm, fuzzy, feel-good message that I can just, wrap my arms around and go, ooh, and then walk out the door. I hope it drives you nuts because you just never know what to expect when you walk in. Because that's part of my mission. Because I don't want to pat you on the backside and say, oh, we love you. We love you. God loves you. But He doesn't want you to do anything for Him. I want to challenge you to get out of your own way and go do something. You got something? Roll in.
You know what? They call that API. Assess, plan, implement, evaluate. That's
nice. He came up with an acronym for it.
Remember, the nurses remember that. The old nurses. Say something else now. And then do a fishbone diagram.
I should have had you teach that. Well, then they would have got it.
All right, everybody, because I believe. I know I'll be over me. Thank you. Have a good week.